Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and the man who replaced Tim Walz on the battlefield claimed that he got into politics because of a military career upon which he quit upon the moment he was going to be deployed in Iraq. This is a bombshell. And before we dive into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors, Colonial Metals Group. They quite literally have the cure to Biden inflation, but more on that later. Now, let's get back into the video.
So you try to get this message out, but Minnesota's largest newspaper checks it out, says it's 100% true, but yet refuses to print.
When I hung the phone up, I said, what the hell is this, North Korea?
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walz served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walz would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress. Tom Behrens was next in line for the position and was asked to take his place.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, if this guy quit, and if I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that? If a company would say that we're going to deploy to Iraq or somewhere and you're going to be gone for whatever amount of time, and then a foreman just says, no, I'm not going. I mean, what does that say to the 500 people that work in that factory?
Behrens would go on to serve in Iraq on a nearly 2-year deployment as a command sergeant major. All while Walz began using that title as a congressman. Behrens says he first contacted Walz with his concerns, sending these letters to Washington. They all went unanswered. But then we fast forward to the election in 2018 in Minnesota, and you try at that time to get people's attention with this story and also with what seems to be a very misleading statement that he continued to make about his service.
It kind of just sat there. You know, when he was a congressman, he bragged that he was a command sergeant, retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and all this lie that he was telling. The state of Minnesota came out after 2018, after this was exposed, and they said, well, he can say that he served as a command sergeant major, but he can't say he's a retired one because he's not.
And that's what he was saying.
And he was saying that, and there was lots of lots of cards coming in the mail, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in.
Between lockdowns, riots, unchecked crime, and a charred police precinct, Behrens felt he had no choice but again to come forward.
Allowing that to be burned down was just like having the Alamo get burned down. It's like, no, you defend that to the last man. If he would have went to Iraq, he'd still be hiding under his desk over there, because that's just the cowardice that I seen portrayed with him.
Wow. I've got one word for that kind of behavior. Scumbag. The man during peacetime decided that he was going to use the military, use it as a ladder. And the moment the military was called into action, he fled and then was rewarded with a political career in Congress. If you're from Minnesota, I honestly want to know, what is wrong with you? Okay? We have some weird voting states here in the United States. You are one of them. I do not mean to insult Minnesotans. I've met them, nice people. I understand this. And you know what? Maybe I should explain this. Minnesota voters are traditionally that region of the country from about Wisconsin to Minnesota all the way into North Dakota are majority either Slavic, Germanic, or Nordic, and heavily on the Nordic. Nordic nations have very high trust ratios because they're almost a completely homogenous society. They're all the same race, they're all the same religion, they all speak the same language. Hey y'all, in case you haven't noticed, this isn't stretching like it used to. As a matter of fact, it's turning more into this. Folks, we are in an inflationary crisis, and that's why this show is sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. The experts led by CEO Paul Stone fully understand the minute details of investing in gold, silver, and other precious metals. They are here to protect your wealth against the insanity that has been Bidenomics and our refusal to stop printing money. And they even have a deal for first-time buyers. Free gold and silver IRA-backed accounts, insured storage for 5 years, up to $7,500 in free silver, and a personal safe to keep all this good stuff. So take a look at their website, link in the description below, or give them a call at this number to see what Colonial Metals Group can do to protect your wealth today. So they brought their high trust society and made it over here in the United States. I am not trying to condemn that. But when you are in a high trust society where the family is highly valued and you care about your infrastructure, you are going to be a little bit more on the, I hate saying this, but socialistic side. Because you can quite literally afford to be. The moment you bring in a non-high trust society, that's when things start to break down. So, Tim Walz comes from a very high trust, surprisingly well-run government. I mean, when you have to maintain a fleet of snowplows in order for your city to function, you're going to need a high trust environment. That's no longer the case in Minnesota, and that happened directly under Tim Walz. And y'all, forget the scumbag part of serving in your military. Then the moment you're called to go into combat, you go, nope, I'm gonna dip. That's scummy behavior. But this man has allowed for tampons in boys' bathrooms. This man stood by idly and even encouraged the rioting during 2020 because a man who was on his third strike and knew that if he went back to jail, he was going to get locked away, probably for life. He decided to consume his entire bag of drugs, overdosed, and then everyone blamed it on the police officer. Seriously, the state of Minnesota should be renamed to the state of Derek Chauvin. Okay? That what they did to him was criminal. Ugh. And Tim Walz was the governor this whole time. And the worst part, I think the worst part about all of this, is that he used to run as a moderate. This man looked at the blowing winds of left-wing society and thought that, hey, if I keep on assuaging these voters, I can stay in power. Instead of going, no, that's insane, we don't need to be doing this. He has basically taken the position that I am a listless piece of paper that can be blown about on any wind. Tim Walz is a horrific pick as vice president. And so it's no wonder that the right wing is just going out of their minds, wondering what Kamala Harris is thinking. Let's even think electorally. Kamala Harris needs Pennsylvania. The entire election, just like the 2004 election, where everything hinged on Ohio. Everything now hinges on Pennsylvania. You go to 270 to win, you plug in your maps. What the data is showing is that the southern states, with the exception of Virginia, are probably going to go for Trump. Mainly because black voters in the South do not like Kamala Harris. And mainstream suburban voters in the South don't like her because of the illegal immigration crisis. She was the border czar. The northern states can stomach her because they don't quite see and feel the effects of mass immigration. Despite the fact that Minnesota literally changed their own state flags to look like the Somali flag. Because the Somalians that have run away from their anarchic society and came to America, and that's why Ilhan Omar represents that district, because she got here because she illegally married her brother, and that's how she got in through the immigration system. I truly believe that conspiracy theory, by the way. So there's something fundamentally wrong with Minnesota. And I am sorry, I do not like dissuading, I don't like insulting states. I don't like doing that. But y'all elected Jesse Ventura. Y'all elected a wrestler for your governor. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something in the water. Maybe having that many lakes just makes you go crazy. I don't know. All I know is this, is that the effect of the suburbs going liberal has had very weird consequences for American politics. We see this in the Front Range in Colorado. We see this across the South. My own suburb back home is Cobb County. And it went, in 2016, it officially went Democrat. It had been slowly trending upwards, but it was used to be the bastion of Republican politics. So what happens? Well, simply put, a bunch of people move in because of smart policies, usually Republican policies. Not quite the state in Minnesota, but Republicans move in and they make the state great, but their kids end up voting Democrat because the education system is literally priming them to vote Democrat. It is no longer just if you're a liberal at 20, if you're not a liberal at 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by 40, you have no brain. That's not what's going on. Kids are being primed to vote Democrat, and they're finally starting to push back against this. It's wonderful to see that, but y'all, Minnesota is a deeply weird state. Nice people, full of it, but the Minneapolis-St. Paul area runs the entire system. And it's what they have produced is a actual socialist. The man has taught in China. You don't go out seeking China in normal situations. It's normally communists that go out to teach in China. And lo and behold, this man has been a borderline socialist for the majority of his governorship. I know I've gotten long-winded on this one, but it's only been a couple of days. But I automatically just despise Tim Walz. If we were at a barbecue together and he tried to shake my hand, I would leave in disgust at the mere sight of him. Because I know what he has done with his record. And that's where you measure a good governor. You measure on record. This man's record is horrific. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.